let's go ahead and hand it off to our guest speaker, Mr. Michael McGrath. Rhonda, you want to go ahead and do the introduction?
Michael is our organizing representative and our anti-MCOR's No Roads to Ruin expert extraordinaire, and he's been talking up a storm online everywhere all across the state, and he's been doing a great job. And so I think we need to shine the light on him in a big way because he's just so informed.
Outstanding. So yes, welcome, Michael. We're going to hand it over to you. You've got about 45 minutes of time, so please blow up our minds with your wealth of information about MCORs.
Well, thank you so much for that warm introduction. Honestly, it feels weird to be here virtual with everyone, not in person, to say the least. I remember when we were still in these meetings in person, last year, and now, well, with COVID, we've been virtual now for quite a long period of time. So nonetheless, we'll make do with what we have. And again, I just appreciate having folks' attention, and also be able to share a little bit about MCORS, about both some background and also some updates on where we are in the campaign. This is a presentation I normally do for just like for background for folks, as like kind of like a primer for folks who are just kind of getting introduced to the topic. I imagine folks in this call are pretty well versed in MCORS and also the toll road program and how it would be disastrous to Florida's future.
I just wanted to ask Mike if you could make sure to task us with anything that we can ask our members to do, action items.
Definitely, yeah. There's a fair amount of things to do, that vary in in level of engagement, time consumption, and also organizing capacity.
But does anybody on this call not know what we're talking about with MCORS?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ronnie. That helps me to figure out how to speak to folks, because I know there's only a few of us. This is a pretty intimate group, so I don't want to rehash things that aren't necessary. Maybe more of our time can be spent on talking about things we can do as a local group, Thank you so much. I'm going to dismiss these right here. All right, great. Anyways, again, thank you again for that warm introduction. For those who don't already know me, my name is Michael McGrath. I'm the organizing rep for our Red Tide and Wildlands campaigns. And a lot of my focus for those campaigns has been on MCORS and stopping it as part of the No Roads to Ruin Coalition. So this is basically a primer to kind of just let folks know about MCORS, what it is, who's behind it, where it's going to go, and also when and where it's going to be happening. So MCORS really is a blatant example of bad governance. Those of you who remember back in the 2019 legislative session, Senate Bill 7068 was being championed by then Senate President Bill Galvano. And in his position as the Senate President for the Florida Senate, he really was able to hang this piece of legislation over the heads of his fellow legislatures, basically saying that if you don't support this bill, then it's very likely that the rest of your bills will not be able to leave committee, essentially putting a gun to his fellow legislatures' heads, which is why when you see the vote totals for roll call for both the Senate and also House, there's a 37-1 support by legislatures in the Senate for this bill, and which essentially fast-tracked the MCORS program, right? And it should be mentioned that there was serious commercial and also special interest interest groups that are really behind the proposal of this bill. Folks from the Transportation Building Association, the Florida Trucking Association, the Florida Ports Council, asphalt industry, Road Builders Association, Florida Chamber of Commerce, Mosaic, just name a few, right? These folks were the ones who were really, in Galvano's ear, and also who were the ones who really were behind trying to push this bill forward. So that would dramatically change the state of Florida if actually were to continue the construction. Despite over 80 organizations, businesses requesting Governor DeSantis to veto the bill, it was ultimately signed by Governor DeSantis after he ran a campaign where he said he promised to be a champion of the environment and also fiscal conservative. Mind you, this road project is going to be a multi-billion-dollar project, so it does not align with fiscal conservatism whatsoever. And proponents will say that it will help with traffic congestion and expand hurricane evacuation routes. But the reality is that there's been no demonstrated study to actually prove that's actually the case, or there's any need for that matter. So this is kind of a brief overview of what MCORS program is, and it's scheduled 5 steps. The first was the task force, which is already concluded. We are now in the planning and also corridor evaluation. And third will be the project development environment study. And fourth will be right away, which is whether it be acquiring lands, be able to construct this project. And finally, will be the construction of it. The task forces that were convened were drafted really to provide guiding principles at a very high level. They didn't really provide any concrete, evidence as far as whether these roads were needed and also what the specific routes would be either. Here's just a brief overview of the study area. So in the northern portion for the Suncoast corridor, it would run about 150 miles from Citrus County all the way to Jefferson County, and just stopping south of Georgia, or at the sleepy Thomasville, Georgia area. Meanwhile, for the Southwest Central corridor, which is our neck of the woods, it's really a resurrection of the previous Heartland Parkway, which you might recall was deemed to be fiscally infeasible and was dead for those reasons. And that corridor would connect Lakeland and Polk County all the way down to Naples and Collier County. And finally, the Northern Turnpike study area is a relatively short stretch, only about 40 miles or so. That's what would be connecting the Suncoast Parkway to the Florida Turnpike. So our coalition was really born out of a shared desire to oppose MCORs and also the Roads to Ruin. This is a picture of our press conference we had back in December of 2019 when we were at the Capitol building in Tallahassee. We were then only 55 partner strongs. Since then, we have grown to over 107 partners from businesses and organizations, and farmers, ranchers, etc., from all across the state who all agree that MCORs has got to go, and that the only option is to not build these toll roads. So here's a picture from space of what Florida looks like at night, right? And I think this picture is really telling for what's at stake here in Florida, right? Each of the study areas for where these transmission corridors are rich in environmental, agricultural, and also cultural resources that are of significant importance to our local communities. And you can see just how rural and also sparsely populated these parts of Florida are. Really, if these locations are paved over, it will be the creation of more and more sprawl within Florida. Building these roads alone will develop around 54,000 acres of land, and the only thing that's going to follow, unfortunately, in their footpath is low density sprawl. The mantra, if you build it, they will come. The same case for these roads. So this is what the future of rural Florida might look like if these proposed toll roads are put into effect. So here is a map that does some GIS spatial analysis. The polygons that are outlined in yellow indicate the study area. And of course, the northern portion is Suncoast Connector, followed the Northern Turnpike, and finally the Southwest Central Connector. And you can kind of see when the state was trying to figure out its assessment for what the conservation needs were for the Florida Forever program, they were able to outline what the highest priority projects were. The shaded areas that are in darker red are the highest projects, and finally, in lighter, they're lesser priorities, right? And this just shows you just how the wealth of an abundance of natural resources there are within this region. It's also an important habitat for over 281 focal species based on actual occurrences. 151 of those are plant species, and finally 130 of them are animal species. There are several rare habitats at risk, but for right now, I just want to focus on a lesser talked about and also but equally important habitat in the Polk County area, just below Lakeland, right around Lake Wales Ridge. There are several rare habitats at risk that are very rarely seen within Florida, such as dry prairie, scrub and also scrubby flatwoods, and also sandhill upland lakes, and also pine flatwoods, and finally sandhills as well. This part of Florida has a good percentage of all these sorts of habitats, and they support a lot of the biodiversity within the region. The Florida scrub within the Lake Wales Ridge area is a globally recognized biodiversity hotspot that provides habitat for over 30 listed plants and also animals. And really, this would be right in the crosshairs if these toll roads are to proceed with construction, and also all the sprawl that they will bring as well to this already disappearing habitat. Finally, when we look in the Suncoast study area, we can see the linkages before the Florida Ecological Greenways Network. They call it the Nature Coast in this area for a reason, because there's so much abundance of natural resources there that has not already been fragmented. A lot of these lands are don't already have conservation easements or are not public lands. They are privately held. So that's going to cause them to be opened up for development if a highway is put right through. And you can only imagine, the sprawl that would already happen, which would permanently sever the connectivity between these various wildlife corridors, not allowing more critical linkages for wildlife to be able to migrate and roam between these natural areas. Something that is also not discussed nearly enough when we're considering the toll roads program is the need to the fire dependency of these communities, right? A lot of these natural habitats are fire dependent, right? Fire has always been a ever-present force within Florida's ecology, and the plants and also the native plants and also native animals that live within the Southwest Central region in particular depend on prescribed burns, right? To be able to manage these natural habitats and also agricultural lands. So this graph here, this map here on the right depicts these fire-dependent lands that are already managed by prescribed burns. And on the left-hand side, you can see some listed species such as the Florida scrub jay, eastern indigo snake, among others, who are all dependent on these prescribed burn lands in order to survive. I don't have to remind folks of, in this room of 2018, when we had serious harmful algal blooms here in Southwest Florida, where the blue-green algae was so thick that it would look like guacamole, but it smelled completely foul. These toll roads are going to only create more sprawl, and as a result, more inputs of fertilizer from folks' lawns, and also will fail to address the critical challenges we have in addressing our state's already overpolluted waterways. So everything from our springs, our wetlands, the Everglades, our riverways, all these will be overpolluted as roadways are further stimulated with low density sprawl. Anytime you have more gray infrastructure with impervious surfaces, it makes managing stormwater and also fertilizer runoff even more difficult. Also at risk is Florida's water supply. So those folks who, the green swamp is a really vital ecological resource for aquifer recharge areas. It's also in the green swamp watershed. It's what's known for the headwaters for 4 major rivers, so Withlacoochee, the Ocklawaha, the Hillsborough, and also Peace River, which is really much of the source for Central Florida's water supply. The Hillsborough River in particular is the primary drinking water source for the city of Tampa and also portions of the Tampa Bay region. And because the underground Floridian aquifer rises very close to the surface of the green swamp, the aquifer recharge areas are extremely sensitive, making it all the more important to protect these lands to ensure that we have critical watershed and also floodplain protection and also recharges to the Floridian aquifer. So by protecting this area of Florida, within the South Central region and also on the Suncoast connector region, we can help to protect the water supply for millions, hundreds of millions of Floridians. Sorry, millions, not hundreds of thousands of Floridians, and millions of Floridians. So why is the Southwest Central Connector Corridor such a threat to the greater Everglades watershed? Well, as you might know, just a quick little fact out there, the greater Everglades watershed is more than 10 million acres. Meanwhile, the Southwest Central Connector is approximately 6.5 million acres. More than 4 million acres of the greater Everglades overlaps with the MCOR's Southwest Central Connector Corridor. That's 67% of it overlapping with 41% of the Greater Everglades watershed. And we all know that Everglades is a resource of international significance. It's a tropical wetland, unlike anything else found in the United States or the globe for that matter. The waters within the Southwest Central Connector study area drain into the Everglades, and building more toll roads through this ecosystem is counterproductive, as it will be counterproductive to the billions of dollars already being spent into comprehensive Everglades restoration projects that environmentalist state agencies and federal and local governments have been working on for a very, very long time. I think I just want to provide these pictures, just kind of really provide just a little bit of what we're fighting for, right? I mean, these are some pictures of the vast wetlands within the Everglades ecosystem. It's just such a true mantra that water is life, and that we really do need to do our part to protect the river grass from being paved over, so we can actually protect this hydrology for wildlife, and also for our water supply, and also for our water quality. It's not an understatement to say that this could be the nail in the coffin if this roadway is built for the Florida panther. In a correspondence with in a superior to from a biologist from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, John Rubik said that it would jeopardize the species and that it would basically be a disaster for the panther. He was being very candid with his email to his supervisor, and the reason for that is because when you look at the map for where the primary habitat is for the Florida panther, the map on the left depicts the Florida panther focus area. You can see how it's going to be going straight through the heart of Florida panthers habitat. In 2020, there was 20 deaths for Florida panthers. 17 of them were caused by vehicular collisions, and this is the number one cause of their death. The second leading cause of their death is infighting between the cats, which is a symptom of lack of habitat and the fact that they're confined to such a limited geographic area. The highways will only fragment that wildlife habitat further, and the creation of more sprawl will only be an additional source of wildlife mortality. So this roadway project really could imperil their existence. And we know that the Florida panther isn't the only listed species that would be impacted by MCORS. It's an umbrella species, right? So if we protect the Florida panther, we can ensure the protection of a whole host of listed species, both within the panther's habitat area. So it's for those reasons alone, it's important to stop the roadways. I mean, how else will we tell our children, what happened to the state animal for the Florida panther if we allow this roadway to be built right through the heart of their home? It just sickens me to think about just where we are right now in the crossroads of climate change, and to see projects like this to be continuing. Right, this is whatever this is only going to add more emissions of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, and it's not going to build the resiliency that our state needs. It's not going to help with the prioritization of a just transition to clean energy. It's not going to make more accessible public transit options. It's not going to help with mangrove restoration, with creation of seawalls, or for that matter, helping with creating more hurricane shelters for our state population to be able to take refuge when we have more storms. It's only going to expand the fossil infrastructure, and it's actually only going to cause more traffic congestion on roadways when people are trying to be safe and take shelter during a hurricane. The Division of Emergency Management for Florida states time and time again that if the best thing to do if you're in the path of a storm surge is to actually take shelter in place, or take shelter within a Red Cross certified hurricane shelter, right? And those are the things that we need to prioritize rather than building roads that are actually going to create more and more congestion on our roadways and won't actually do the job needed to address the challenges of climate change. Equally important for Florida is agriculture. It's our second largest industry here, and within the study area, there's a mosaic of private and public lands. There are significant horse farms, produce operations, timber and silviculture operations, ranches, and even fisheries are abundant within the MCOR study areas. These resources help to contribute to our state's vibrant agriculture industry, and we need our part to help protect this legacy here in Florida. And it should be noted that here in the Southwest Central region, agricultural lands make up more than 40% of the corridor land use and are major economic drivers. They also provide spaces that allow wildlife to roam. They provide various wetland habitats and also help with aquifer recharge as well. This is also putting at risk our rural livelihoods and also rural communities as well. Many of the local economies within the study area rely on tourism, be it ecotourism, agritourism, or other outdoor recreation activities, all of which stem from the rich natural resources that are unique to these regions. By creating these toll roads, you're going to be fundamentally redirecting traffic patterns that will hurt small downtowns and also flood these communities with sprawl, ruining the quality of life and also charm that appeals to so many folks who want to move out to the countryside here in Florida. So this is going to affect various communities that live on the interstates that will be bypassed and also have traffic redirected from them instead. And it should be also noted that the Florida Department of Transportation refuses to say whether or not local governments will be forced to amend their comprehensive plans to allow unnecessary toll roads, right? Which again is going back to this entire thing about how policy in Tallahassee is basically preempting the things that have already been decided by folks on the ground in local communities. And neither citizens nor local governments ask for these toll roads to slice through the communities. So if we're really going to meet the challenges of the 21st century and also with our growing population, we need to focus on smart, sustainable growth that preserves our state's most valuable assets, such as our environment, our agricultural lands, our unique communities, and also quality of life that each of these economies depend upon. A 300+ mile network of tollways and also low density sprawl is it's going to threaten what truly makes Florida special and unique. We're really pleased to see that Nikki Free come out and voice her opposition to MCORs. She said that this project threatens unique character of our state's rural lands and last undeveloped landscapes. I urge Secretary Tebow and also Governor to listen to over 10,000 Florida residents who have voiced opposition to MCORs and utilize the no-build option. We cannot afford to divert money into more toll roads while millions of Floridians continue to suffer. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about some budgetary items and also finance stuff. I hope I don't lose people at this point in time in the conversation, but I think we do need to talk a little bit about finance aspects of things because that's really the thing that's really going to pique the ears of legislatures and also local government electeds as well, because it really comes down to budgets and also making the economic argument at times. So we all know about the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the public health crisis that's ensued, and also the economic decline that's ensued as well. But when you look at how it's devastated state revenue, we see that in fiscal year 2019 through 20, we lost over $1.9 billion. And meanwhile, economists in Florida projecting that from fiscal year 2020 through 21, we're going to lose an additional $5.4 billion in state revenue. That means our projected state budget shortfalls are going to be for 21, 22, 2.77 billion, and also for 22, 23, to around $2 billion. That's over $5 billion in funds that we've lost to the coffers due to plummets in sales tax revenues and also economic woes caused by the virus. This is something that you can't. This requires immense challenges to our government, which means we're going to have less funding to be able to spend on programs. With that being said, right, continuing to fund MCORs is only going to for the planning also design process, is only going to divert general revenue dollars from other pressing needs such as healthcare coverage, affordable housing funds, programs for education such as tuition rates for college, teacher salaries, K through 12 funding, etc. Right, and now it's more than ever, right? We need to make sure we actually fund those programs as opposed to reckless and also needless roads. Furthermore, there's serious things at stake for the Florida Turnpike system. So far, FDOT has lost over $189 million and toll revenues due to the simple fact that people are driving less, right? Because of the pandemic. And it's not likely that FDOT is going to recoup those losses anytime soon. We can see that in FY 2019 through 20, they lost around $127 million, which is a 35% decrease from the previous year. And then for 2020 through 21, they lost around $62 million, which is a 17.4 decrease. COVID-19 has caused there to be less revenue and also fewer transactions. And we've also seen that, we don't really know what the long-term behavioral effects are of the pandemic for how people actually commute and also how people go to work, right? We've all shown that we can work remotely for many occupations, and that this trend may continue well after the pandemic, which frankly, I'm not sure when this will end. Furthermore, the 5-year work plan that the Florida Department of Transportation, which is basically approved by legislatures and that basically sets the priorities for what projects are funded, is going to have some shortfalls, right? And if FDOT continues to proceed with having to prioritize MCORs, it's going to divert money from projects that were identified in that 5-year work plan, and which means that you're going to see it divert funding from local transportation projects that are of critical need, and also will cause significant delays to these existing needs within these communities. So the Sierra Club and also No Roads to Ruin Coalition commissioned Cornell Consulting, which is a undergraduate student group, basically works with various Fortune 500 companies and also nonprofits, basically to do various consulting projects. And one of the things we wanted to really shed light on was whether or not this project was even fiscally feasible, right? They basically created a comparable methodology where they grounded their cost assumptions for different roadways based on already existing highways here in Florida, other parts of the state that are comparable, to basically get basically able to elaborate what the construction costs would be, the toll prices, and also operating expenses, and also we're able to create a simulation that basically looked at over 500 simulated models where they took into consideration various variables as well. And what they found is that the toll roads are not feasible in any of those trials, and that in total it would cost at least, just for road construction alone, $10.3 billion. They also undertook a cost-benefit analysis, basically to look on the one hand as far as what the cost would be for building MCORs, right? Both in terms of the development and also the social outcomes as well. And on the other hand, I looked at what would be the benefits of pursuing some of the MCORs goals, such as deploying broadband, or also improving hurricane evacuation or emergency preparedness, and independent of road construction. And what they found is that MCORs is actually not going to even achieve its stated goals of increasing increasing hurricane evacuation or deploying broadband. And that's because it's only going to create more traffic on our roadways, and also deploying broadband. It's actually going to take an additional 10 years before broadband actually makes those rural communities, right? Meanwhile, you can deploy broadband, and it can be a huge economic driver for these rural communities, which are currently suffering from lack of coverage at a much more rapid time horizon, right? And stimulate a lot of economic activity within the region as a result of doing that. Showing that this is something that can be achieved for a fraction of the cost, right? Meanwhile, Florida Tax Watch did their own analysis of the MCORs and also on fiscal terms, and they estimated that the cost of Suncoast Connector alone would be between $4 billion and also $10.5 billion, based on other comparisons to other toll road projects. Under the cost scenarios considered, toll receipts per mile would have to equal or exceed those collected on the turnpike to cover bonds. Nearly all of US 19 in the study area operates only at a mere 16% capacity during peak traffic, and it's not expected to increase beyond 22% by 2045. If you guys are ever on US 19 over in the Tallahassee area and Leon, and also Jefferson County area, it is not densely trafficked at all. I mean, there's no genuine need for having more roads up there. And they concluded that the Suncoast Connector is a risky project with what is sure to be a large price tag and little demonstrated transportation need. I mean, I think what comes to mind for myself when we think about, the little demonstrated transportation need, and also huge price tag associated with it, is the infamous Garcon Point Bridge, which is the famous road to nowhere over in Pensacola, which now has a $5 toll on it, and that people literally always avoid. And that bridge in particular should serve as a cautionary tale for MCORs and also each of the transportation corridors. There are so many reasons to oppose MCORs, and Floridians know it. In a joint comment letter that was signed by over 110 organizations and businesses, we demanded no build from each of the task forces, and also the Department of Transportation, the governor, and also legislature. We delivered that letter on October 13th. Despite our efforts, FDOT continues to try and keep the lid on opposition. During presentations to task force members, they would share a total count of comments, but they never would share with broad areas of concern, but they never share a breakdown of whether folks were for MCORs or against or whatever, right? And that's why we took it upon ourselves actually to do a public comment count, right? So through public records request, we requested all the comment files that have been submitted to FDOT, whether it was at in-person meetings or through email. And because we believe that the task force members had a duty to take the public's comments into consideration as they finalize the recommendations to the legislature and also the governor. The comments we received were from FDOT Listen's email address, secret cards are done at in-person meetings, and also transcribed through core reporters and et cetera, right? We know we didn't get everything, because I personally, had given public comment, in places like Sebring and LaBelle, and I noticed that my speaker card was not even included in the public records request, which is disservice to public information that we requested, and with remember that of course we're at the mercy of FDOT. Also, it should also be noted that there was never any transcribing being done by FDOT for the hundreds of comments are given during the virtual meetings, and also when it went to the webinar format. So thanks to the valiant efforts of a small army of volunteer comment counters from across the state, we were able to categorize the public comments into anti-MCORs, pro-MCORs, and also unclear comments. And what we found was that 93% of the comments were opposed to MCORs from August 2019 through October 2020. And only 4% were in favor. And a lot of those that were in favor are oftentimes folks who were part of industry. So I think that just demonstrates just how widely public opposition is to this toll roads program. FDOT omitting any mention of the public sentiment during the reports to the task force members was a calculated lie of omission. Imagine if the opposite were true. If MCORs had more than 90% of support, would FDOT hide it from the public? Of course not. They'd be yelling it from the rooftops, saying that we have 90% support, but instead they had more than 93% of opposition. Finally, the final task force reports were sent to the governor's office, and they provided zero clarity, leaving the door wide open for FDOT to support the construction of new toll roads. Many task force members actually did indeed refuse to join the so-called consensus communication that our advocacy efforts did work. Unfortunately, their dissent was not documented due to the way that the legislation was signed into law, which required a consensus building mechanism, which means that there is no way to actually have the minority opinions of task force members recorded into those documents. So because it basically created a team majority where basically the prevailing reports the prevailing thoughts and opinions of the task force were overshadowed by those who had dissent. So anyways, anyone who's claiming the reports are something to celebrate is actually deceiving the public. There is nothing to celebrate until MCORs is repealed. And this statement is pretty telling. That's outlined on the very first few pages in each task force report. It says the task force did not reach a conclusion based on the information available at this time that there is a specific need for a completely new greenfield corridor or modification of existing facilities through the study area to achieve the statutory purpose. We're proud to announce that last week we had a press event with our sponsors, Senator Tina Polsky over in Palm Beach and also Broward County, and also Representative Ben Diamond, representative over in the St. Pete area. where we actually announced the bill to repeal the MCORS toll road program. And thanks to them, we now have a clear pathway for how we can repeal these roads in the upcoming legislative session. Which brings us to where we are right now, right? We now want to pivot to identifying legislatures who can be part of our efforts to repeal MCORS. And you know, our message is very clear this entire legislative session. Repeal the roads, repeal MCORS, because it's something that can address many of the budgetary woes here in Florida, and also something that, you know, is not needed for our state's future, and also was only going to bring environmental harm to our state. So you can start now by contacting legislatures and letting them know that this is a concern of yours. You know, I'll be honest, here in Southwest Florida, it's a pretty difficult landscape for legislatures, unfortunately. But you know, that doesn't mean that you can't let them know this is a big concern of them. And you know, we think that if we can get more and more Republican co-sponsors on this bill, it will improve its chances to repeal MCORS. We can end this thing once and for all. So now I'd like to just transition to question and answer, and then we can also talk a little about some more ways that folks can be involved and also engaged in our grassroots efforts to oppose MCORS and the roads to ruin.
Michael,
would like.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. This is Connie.
Hey, Connie.
Okay, let's see. You had a slide that showed the rare habitats at risk, and it showed 17 and 27.
Yep.
Yeah, you see how close together they are? I travel those roads several times every year. I know them quite well. And you had like an capacity for US 19. Do they? I'm sure they have capacity for 17 and 27, and they are not near capacity.
No, they're not.
They're so close together, and I imagine the road would go right through the middle of them. It isn't needed at all. But another couple of things. The money's not there, so how the hell do they justify spending these enormous sums of money, and why? Is it Governor DeSantis has a whole bunch of rich friends that own that land that want to make a fortune?
This is a really good moment to bring in Petterfee.
Yeah, Ron, maybe you want to talk about that. I mean,
well, there's a guy. He's considered to be one of the richest guys in Florida, big funder of Trump and DeSantis, who lives over in Palm Beach County, I believe.
Yep.
Who bought about half of Taylor County, Florida, poor beleaguered Taylor County, Florida. We spent some time in Taylor County fighting a coal plant that was on an already disgusting Fen Holloway River, Superfund site river type thing, way back when. And now Petterfee owns over 500,000 acres of Taylor County and a couple of 100,000 acres in surrounding counties. And this would increase his land value tremendously. So you're absolutely right, Connie. It is not necessary, and it is just a favor to Mr. Poster Child for the white privilege movement, DeSantis.
It's disgusting. I mean, how can they possibly justify this?
We had a question in the chat as far as how to spell that person's name.
Yeah, I can drop it. I figure how to spell off name right now, but I can also send some folks an article like billionaire billionaire boulevard is what they're calling it, due to Thomas's influence within the legislature. It's pretty sickening.
I think it's Petterfy, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So.
And he denies it, of course.
Of course.
And everybody that's in the chat, ensure that you contact Calusa at florida.sierraclub.org to ensure that you're on the mailing list when we send out information and clips from this video. So
why does FDOT push this so hard? Is it because they're the government and they're backed by DeSantis?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a great question, Connie. Because the MCORs was signed into law through Senate Bill 7068, FDOT staff is required to work on this, which I imagine many staff are actually not privately enthused by, or care to do it all, but they're mandated by legislation,
Right.
by law, to be able to have to work on this. And by the way, this goes completely alternatively to how FDOT does its normal evaluation of transportation projects. There's something called a planning corridor process, which basically FDOT normally does in order to undertake the economic, fiscal feasibility, and also environmental feasibility of any project that it undertakes. And this completely bypassed that. Basically said instead, we're going to build this roadway, and we'll find out whether or not it's feasible afterwards, and then we'll still build it anyways.
It's just insane. How do you think the chances are that the bill that they're trying to pass to get rid of it, how do you think that'll work? Do you think it'll happen?
You know what? I'll tell you what. Wilton Simpson, who's the Senate president for Florida Senate, and also Kelly Stargell, who chairs the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, has said that everything's on the table, right? And as far as cutting projects and also looking at really expensive projects here in Florida. And I think that if we can make a strong argument on fiscal terms and also budgetary concerns, and we can get the right Republicans on board early on as co-sponsors, I think we have a very real chance of repealing MCORs this legislative session. I think it's not going to be an easy fight. It's going to be a tough fight these next 70 days or so during the legislative session. But I think something we can really make happen so long as we get Republican support early on in the process. So that's what we're doing right now with our lobbyists and also folks on the ground and who are part of constituencies we think that can sway members of the House and Senate to get on for sponsoring this either in both the Senate and also House.
And will you be sending us information on simply being able to tell our legislators to promote that, to contact our legislators to vote for that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think one thing that you can do, right, is that we launched this video testimonial campaign, right, where allowing people to share their story with legislators about why they're opposed to the roads to ruin. So Lemmy actually was so gracious enough to actually offer to be one of the example videos actually. So snaps to Lemmy right now, for doing that. And this is a really safe and also an easy way for folks to engage with providing their own reasons for why they're opposed to the roads to ruin. And in a time when we're not able to rally as much in Tallahassee in person, we would like to be able to. This is a way that we can send a clear message to legislatures and also tag them on social media, and letting them know this is something that their constituency is concerned about from across the entire state and also within their own district. So you can scan that QR code right there, or go to the link provided, and you can then send your message to why you want these roads to be repealed.
And Michael, I had a question as far as when you put the map up, as far as the area that MCORS is going to take up, a road itself, let's say it's 5 lanes wide, 6 lanes wide, 10 feet per lane, that's 60 feet wide-ish. Let's say shoulder, another 80, 100 feet wide.
Right.
But the footprint of the MCORS looks, miles wide. Why is there such a great disparity between what the area the road would take up to as far as the impact area that they're proposing that they need for doing that?
So Clifford, just like pull up maps, just we're on the same page, I guess, right? Like are you referring to like this right here, like this?
Yeah, any of the maps, like that one in particular works out great.
Yeah,
the pink area is the region that's set aside for MCORS, but the road itself would only take up a very small portion of that. Why are they proposing such a great expanse?
Right. So these study areas don't include the entire area for where the road will be located. They demonstrate the counties and also municipalities are being considered within the study area, and they're just based on jurisdiction for county lines, right? So no one knows where MCORS is going to be located yet because that's not the task force process was not about identifying a pathway for the corridor. That's what the next phase of this project is, or like the planning and also corridor evaluation, which is the second phase of this project. And basically that money that's being put into paying off design of the MCORS project is siphoning money away from taxpayer dollars from general revenue, which would be appropriated to addressing critical state needs instead. So that's what our call to action is right now. Is we want to free up those hundreds of $millions. I mean, over the next 5 years, they're going to spend over $700 million on just looking at the design and also planning evaluation of this corridor, when we all know that's not going to be feasible on fiscal, economic, or environmental terms. So it is going to be like an 8-lane highway in some portions of things, and they FDOT would like to be able to co-locate it on our existing roads, but I don't see that being feasible, considering the fact that whatever you do, you're going to have to create a new transportation corridor that will go through a new greenfield corridor across these very vast rural areas.
So just as a follow-up, you're talking about if they co-locate, they would take a road like 17 or 27 and turn it into a essentially 6-lane highway?
That's correct, yes.
And charge a toll.
And charge a toll on it.
Right. All right. We had a question in the chat that came in, and let me go ahead and read it to you in the chat. Is there a specific, it's asking, is there a specific bill for repealing MCORS? And you mentioned that there was. So I guess the question would better be said is, what is the specific bill that's repealing MCORS?
Yeah, sure thing. It's Senate Bill 1030 for repealing MCORS. And also there's also one in the House as well. I can't believe I don't know this off the top of my head right now. It was announced later after the fact. Let me find it real quick.
So in the meantime, it's Senate Bill 1030 that is the one to repeal it, and we'll find the House complement to that bill that would go ahead and respond to that.
Yeah, the House Bill is 763.
763. So one of the key things is having a House and Senate complements to bills, because it makes it easier for passage when they have similar or the same wording. And that's just something we've learned over time when we're looking to push particular bills to go through.
Yep, and these bills are good. Like we work very closely with Senator Diamond. I'm sorry, Senator Polsky and also Ben Diamond's office. And we fully endorse these bills. This is exactly what we've been demanding. It will cease funding for MCORS. It will exit from this transportation boondoggle once and for all. And this is exactly what we want to see this legislative session. So,
Michael, are there other say appropriations bills or anything else where discussions of funding for this year is currently happening or is planning to happen in legislative session other than these two proposed bills?
Yeah, there is a bill being pushed by I can't remember if it's Jim Show or Jason Show. I'm pretty sure it's Jason Show over in the Jefferson and also Taylor and Lafayette sort of area. He's basically proposing this bill that is really hazardous, because it's basically seeking only to remove Jefferson County from being part of the considered regions where this roadway could be located. And it doesn't actually even have any teeth to it, actually, when you look at the language of the bill. And it still puts Jefferson County at risk of being paved over by these toll roads, by immense low water up there as well. So but that's the only one I've seen come across my screen, that we've seen come across our screen so far, as bills related to MCORS.
So this year's legislative session will likely be discussing approximately how much funding for this proposed project. Like already they've spent a ton of money, right, on the task forces, and there's also, and the original bill came with a certain allocation, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And so how much have we already allocated or spent, or both?
I don't know that off the top of my head right now, but I can tell you it's in the tens of millions of dollars, well over $300 million, more than likely. I can provide you our fiscal fact sheet that has all the information outlined. Let me drop in the chat here, and then that way
Okay.
we can have that handy.
And before I forget, I just wanted to tell you something, and please don't take this the wrong way, because it took me a really long time to learn this, but the name of the aquifer is the Floridan, not Floridian.
Right.
Thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that.
It's it confused me forever. Like, why in the world would they do that? I think it's just to sort of like sort out the natives from the nons.
Well, I appreciate you correcting me on that, and I am not a native Floridian, as you guys know, but I did live in Daytona Beach for about 5 years growing up. I've lived a lot of places across the country, so I appreciate you correcting me on that, Rhonda. Thank you.
But I got to tell you, native Floridians don't know the names of the aquifers beneath their feet either. So Floridan, yeah, Floridan.
Floridan. Say with me, folks. Floridan.
Yep.
Other questions?
And I wanted to also clarify something about when Clifford was asking about why are the corridor footprints or why is the mapping area for these segments so wide. It's because those were the planning areas where they had no clear idea exactly where the roads were going to go. And you've already said that. However, I think Earth Justice and maybe Conservancy of Southwest Florida have been parsing through some of the documents. That's what they've told me, and they've been able to narrow it down. That doesn't mean that the sprawl footprint wouldn't extend out for most of those regions that are outlined, but it's really, really, really hard to figure out. In fact, wasn't there some attempt to find who had been offered money for their land along the route, Michael?
Yeah, I don't know about that right now. If Conservancy of Southwest Florida has been pursuing that, it's been a side project that Julianne hasn't really brought to the attention of the steering committee for the No Roads Ruin Coalition. I think we have an idea of like which roads will probably be co-located. Places like 27, 29, 19. Those places kind of come to mind, but I have not seen Earth Justice or anything in reports from Conservancy of Southwest Florida around sparsing out which particular lands are looking to be acquired by FDOT staff. If we did have that information, I'd be happy to share that with you guys, though.
I can't remember exactly who said it, but it was in the context of an Everglades Coalition meeting that somebody had been, going through the documents during the task force operations and trying to figure out exactly where they were planning on putting these roads. Yeah, I keep wanting to use I don't want to hear the terms, this is where they're going to go. No, this is where they want them to go. This is where they are not going to go. I think we have to keep making sure that our language reflects that we are not going to let this happen.
Amen, Rhonda. Yeah, for me, my biggest priority right now is like killing these roads, once and for all. I don't want to see this task force process continue this process continue any longer. I like people work on other things instead. I think Floridians across the entire state would agree. So excellent point, Rhonda. We're gonna kill this session.
We just have a couple of minutes. Are other people wanting to speak up? I haven't heard anything from a couple of folks. Don't be shy, just because we're noisy.
Rhonda, can you hear me?
Yes, is that Anne?
Yes, this is Anne, and I am a member of Sierra Club and saw this notice for MCORS and just wanted to learn more about it, and fabulously presented, and now I know all about it and want to share the information with my friends and family.
I'm so glad you joined.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. It's very, very
well. Michael is also a staffer with an office, I believe, in Fort Myers. I don't know where you live, but he's such a wealth of information, and their websites are really useful, informative, and I mean, we know that we live in a state of cognitive dissonance with administrations such as ours in Florida right now, and they keep passing things that don't make any sense. But if we make enough noise and if we embarrass them enough, like embarrassment has gotten us a lot of traction historically. Like when we embarrassed the utilities, when they mimicked our ballot initiative a couple of years ago, everybody was so mad at them. So let's get everybody mad at this.
And Michael, this all kind of brings us back to the point of, can you recap the action items that people can do to support the No Roads to Ruin, as far as hashtags to share, as far as websites to visit, as far as other videos you've put out that we can go ahead and share to our friends and family and our social media accounts?
Absolutely. So the first thing I definitely recommend people do, right, is to sign up for weekly action alerts and also updates, right? We send out weekly email to our distribution list, each week, letting people know what's going on, right? So if you're not already on that distribution list, definitely sign up, right? So that QR code right there, just put your phone up to it, scan it, and then you'll be good to go. And then you can fill out the forms from there. And then let's move on to the next slide. Folks already have that handy. Next thing would be definitely to send your repeal message to legislatures by video. This is really a great way for us to build share, perspectives of folks from across the state, in a safe manner with their legislatures on social media that we'll post to our respective social media accounts. And you can then, that way we can also send a clear message that we want them to repeal the roads, and you can get creative with, why you want them. You can create with your backdrop, you can be in your favorite trail or favorite natural area that you want to see protected, not be paved over. So definitely encourage you to do that. And then you guys can take down my contact information as well. I can be in touch with you if you want to get more involved and also invest in this campaign. And I'm gonna send some links out into the chat, as far as everything I just mentioned there, so folks can have that handy. And I think, really I think one of the things that is actionable for folks here in Southwest Florida is I'm working with folks in places like Broward County and also Hillsborough County and Denellen to pass resolutions opposing MCORS. There's been several counties that have already passed resolutions opposing MCORS, such as Jefferson County, Levy County, Alachua County, and also now most recently Gilchrist County. But we'd love to see more counties and also local governments pass resolutions opposing MCORS. And looking at the landscape here in Lee County, I think the most reasonable one that actually would be willing to do that would be Sanibel. So if folks are interested in getting involved in organizing locally to repeal MCORS with Sanibel, please do take my contact information down, and you can email me, and we can chat more about that. And that's a great way to actually send a clear message from folks from local government here in Sanibel, why this is not necessary, and it's only going to cause more issues with our water quality and also tourism and whatnot, and not the best way to spend our taxpayer dollars. So hopefully that answers those questions.
As the secretary, part of the minutes, I copy the complete chat. So if anybody missed anything, I have the information, and it will be in the minutes.
Nice. Thank you, Connie. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we're also going to be taking this video and putting it into pieces so that way we can put it on social media. So be sure to follow our Sierra Club Calusa Group Facebook page, our Sierra Club Calusa Group, almost a tongue twister, Instagram page, our Sierra Club Calusa Group Twitter page, and other social media that you'll see around to it. So I thank everybody for coming out. We've reached the official end of the meeting, but I thank everybody for joining on. If anybody would like to stay longer on the end of the meeting, they can, for anybody that can stay forth and ask any other questions or get further information. But I thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I call official adjournment to the official meeting. But anybody that's like to stay over for more time, by all means, you're welcome to that.
Michael, thank you. And I know you have a bunch of other scheduled talks.
Yeah. I'm giving this presentation to most, if not all, of the groups across Florida for the Sierra Club. So
Cool.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to talk to the Calusa group and get folks involved. And if you want to connect and want to continue this, we're always looking for volunteers. I do lead grassroots activities for this campaign across the entire state. So just let me know, and I can connect you with the right people.
Well, I tuned into your one of your disciples' presentations. He's actually a friend of ours, Oscar.
Oh, yeah, Oscar. Yeah. Oscar's great.
Oscar, my daughter is is a co-plaintiff with him in the state climate lawsuit.
Oh, awesome. That's
yeah,
amazing.
so that's how we know Oscar.
I didn't realize that he was also a co-plaintiff. I didn't realize that he was also in that lawsuit.
He's one of the gang of 8.
Very nice. I'll have to mention to them. Yeah, Oscar's been great. It's been really great connecting with a lot of younger people. I work a lot with volunteers at FGCU on this issue as well. It's been great to see how engaged they are, and also seeing them stand up for Florida's future as well. Just because this is something that will cause irreversible harm to Florida's land use, and also once you pave it, you can't save it, unfortunately.
And Michael, I want to make sure that we can stay connected, and I'd like to invite you to meet with us every couple months. So I want to say at least every quarter. So every
Yeah,
3
definitely.
months.
I
we
know,
wanna have
I
a
know.
meeting.
I need to do a better job of being connected with the Calusa group. That's my fault.
You've got a lot of stuff on your plate. You've got a lot of area to cover. It's understandable. But I
Yeah,
just want to make sure that we get in line for you at least every couple months to get an update and reminder as far as action items that people can do and a status of the progress based off the action items that people are doing, particularly because of the lobby action that we're going to be doing for this legislative session.
Yep, I put it down on my calendar for March 9th. So,
And if you have volunteers stepping up to you in your office, because you're sort of on it full time and we're all part-time volunteers, and if they have interests in other environmental issues in Southwest Florida, please make sure that they know about us and we would welcome their participation in our group. So Cynthia was asking a question with
when you hi everybody, my name's Cynthia Pullum. I'm a lifetime member of the Sierra Club. I moved here
Yay.
just in October from Colorado, and it's taken me a while to get my feet on the ground, but now I want to get active and volunteer with the Sierra Club here.
You came just in time for the governor to steal away all of our what's left.
Yeah, and we're not going to take that. So
We're not going to take it.
no way. So when you say we and minutes, is that the Sierra Club Calusa?
Well, Calusa Group covers Lee, Collier, Hendry, and Glades counties. So it's sort of
Right.
the southwest quadrant of the state beneath the lake.
Great, thank you. I'm still getting oriented in my geography. Thank you.
And thank you, Rhonda. But the Calusa group itself, if you're not on the mailing list, it's best to be connected with Calusa at Sierra Club, Calusa at florida.sierraclub.org. That's the official group's email address. So that way, if there's a disconnect at national, you can be sure to get in touch with somebody locally. And that
Right.
comes to me as the group chair.
Thank you.
would
I
be
just
fantastic.
sent an email, so I guess I'll be on your group. Thank you so much.
And just for curiosity, how did you find out about this event?
I found you on Meetup.
Oh, great. Bonnie, you got it. What a great job.
look at that.
Yeah. Outstanding. So great work there. Everybody be sure to be in touch with us on social media and in particularly Facebook, because that's the most active area we have. Also on Campfire. So for those of you that are already Sierra Club members, be sure to join on Campfire. You can get contact with local groups and local activities that we are doing. So
Thank
that
you.
covers about everything, but we do our best to cover a lot of areas. So you can find us on everything that we have going out and that you can go around. Be sure to follow the hashtags NRTR, hashtag NRTR for the no toll roads to ruin. Am I saying that right?
You want to say
No roads to ruin.
No roads to ruin. No roads to ruin.
Hashtag no roads to ruin, and also hashtag repeal the roads. Those are the hashtags you want to use. I'll put those in the chat, right?
And be sure to like and share all those so we can get greater amplification of the words, so we can get more information out and let all Floridians know. Because once people know, that way they're more apt to do something to stop it. If it's even so little as being a part of this group and giving us all greater support, or even going so far as to reaching out to their representatives to let them know they don't approve of and they want to end the roads to ruin.
Yep. Awesome. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for having me tonight as a guest speaker. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to connecting with folks. And don't be a stranger. Feel free to email me, chat, text me, call me, whatever.
Thank you, Michael. That was so great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
it was really
information.
good.
And we
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We're welcome.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everyone. Thanks for joining.